Hi, this is Catherine Morgan. I'm the founder of Point A to Point B Transitions, and I'm also the editor-in-chief of Carol Roth's blog, Business Unplugged. Today, it is my pleasure to bring you David J.P. Fisher, otherwise known as D-Fish or D-Fish Rockstar.
Hello. Just don't call me late for dinner and we're good.
No, I'm not going to call you late for dinner, or cocktails for that matter.
Important.
Very important. So, David, I actually know you from a networking context, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. But for people who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I've actually run a professional development firm called Rockstar Consulting for almost 15 years. I started out as a business coach working with small business owners, entrepreneurs, and salespeople, and have continued to evolve. Still do a lot of coaching, but also started writing books. I've actually written 8, and also do a lot of speaking and training around sales, networking, relationship building, social media, and entrepreneurship.
Well, when you talked about who you were working with, small business, consultants, salespeople, that's clearly our readers at Carol Roth's Business Unplugged. So we'll cater the conversation for them. I can vouch for one of your books, Hyper Selling.
Perfect.
And I know you have a book specifically about networking.
Yeah, right here. Networking in the 21st Century. Why your network sucks and what you can do about it.
You know what? And that's exactly, we just teed that one right up.
You know it.
Because my network does kind of suck. I know some outstanding professionals, and we know some of the same people, so you might know to whom I'm referring. But every small business client I've worked with and readers of the blog had reached out, and they get very sticky about networking. They're like, ugh, I know I have to do it. I don't want to toot my own horn. They're not comfortable, and consequently they're not getting the results from it, which starts a downward spiral.
Yep.
It scares me. I don't like it. I'm not getting any benefits. I don't like it, which is not motivating to go to the next networking meeting.
Right. Yep.
So let's dive into a couple things that small business owners specifically can do to feel better about networking. What do you recommend?
Yeah. So the first place to start, I think, for all professionals is to really re-examine what networking is. I think there's this unfortunate stereotype of the large networking event, the glad handing, the passing out business cards, that, hey, like this very smarmy, skeevy situation that most of us feel really uncomfortable with. And of course, we don't want to have cognitive dissonance. So if we feel uncomfortable about being that person, we don't want to be that person, we don't do it at all. So what I really suggest to people is understand that networking is really about building a network, a group of people around you, a series of relationships. And everybody knows how to create relationships, hopefully, right? You hopefully have a relationship by this point in your life.
Something you can model.
Yeah. Like in your personal life, you've made a friend, even going back to school, like you met somebody, you asked them questions, they asked you questions, you found out you had shared interests, you continue the conversation.
Right.
That's really what networking is. And I talk a lot about relationships because I think one of the biggest impediments to having a good network is that too many people are stuck in this idea that it's transactional. It's the business card exchange. What can I get from you? The hustle. That's not what it's about. It's about developing relationships with people over time. And so I think one of the first things that people can do to get more successful at networking is actually commit to a long-term process. It might happen overnight, but it's probably going to happen over the course of months or years even, and that's okay. It takes the pressure off, and it allows you to walk into a situation and go, I just have to get to know this person. I don't have to ask them for something right away. I can build that foundation, and then we'll see where it goes, right? We'll see where there's opportunities for me to provide service to them. And then also if they can help me I can ask them for help.
Right. Phil Gerbyshak said the same thing about networking on LinkedIn. Go
Mm-hmm.
there to be a resource, be interesting and interested. I think
Yeah,
that applies to face networking as well.
absolutely. I love the idea of being interested in other people. Human beings like people who like them. So,
I thought that was just me.
yeah. We often think that we have to be very interesting and we have to put on this show, that we have to, be really impressive. We have to have the great elevator pitch and be super smooth. Um, I've actually had conversations where somebody at the end of it is like, David, I really enjoy talking to you. You're a great conversationalist. I didn't say a damn thing. I was just like nodding and smiling and asking a few questions to keep the story going, because we're all yearning for that. And so I think that's when I say it's about building relationships. You can put all of the business strategies you want on top of that, but if you don't have the foundation, it's not going to work.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not the stellar networker, but in order to get my introvert's butt out of the house, I need to take some of the pressure off it for me. So I have a pep talk with myself. I'm going to be of service. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I am a professional, as are probably everybody who's watching this. We read things, we have a business, we have a past history, we've experienced all sorts of business problems. We can pretty much add value to any conversation. And if you go in just, listening, being of service, you're going to have an interesting conversation and make a connection, and it's not going to feel slimy. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. I tell people this all the time. The whole introvert extrovert distinction, I think, is actually a little wonky. I get into that in my book. But if you wanted to use that spectrum, I'm an introvert. I'm not an extrovert, and nobody believes me when I say that. But I'm an introvert with really developed social skills.
Okay, wait. I have to stop you on that because, this is Carol Ross' blog. She would describe herself as an introvert too. So am I, except I call myself a shy exhibitionist, because if you put a microphone in my hand, I am like in your face and on fire, like you are. I've seen you.
Oh yeah.
So we have this, but then after a social interaction, we may have to fall back and do some major self-care.
Yeah.
Sort of be quiet.
A big room full of people, it can be tough sometimes. But to your point, like having that pep talk, I actually have a very similar approach where I actually don't even think about having to be of service when I'm going to, let's say, like a large group event. My job literally is just to be present and meet people. Because sometimes even just, it's actually not normal for human beings to go out and meet new people. That's not what we're wired for. So even just saying, I'm going to go say hello to 5 people and make that human connection, and maybe something will come from it. Maybe we'll just have a 30-second conversation by the appetizers, or maybe there'll be some connection. One of the things I always tell people is that networking has phases. Like, networking is not just this monolithic activity. Going to an event, a Chamber of Commerce event, an industry event, that's networking. But so is using LinkedIn to follow up with people. So is one of my favorite things, having a cup of coffee with somebody, having a phone conversation, that one-on-one. I often liken it to dating, right? You would go to, you go to a party, you go to a singles bar. If you're single, because you're like, that's where all the other single people are. But you don't ask somebody to marry you there. You go, oh, I like you. You're funny. You're cute. Seem to be into me. Let me get your phone number, and then we'll go on a date, and we'll find out more if we're compatible, et cetera, et cetera. I do the same thing with business all the time. And the great thing, though, with networking professionally is you can be dating many, many people all at the same time.
Right. Yep. Let me pull up on a couple things there. So I find that people get a better response. I'm not talking about the going into a room thing, but sort of the follow-up or cold outreach type of networking. If they have a very small ask, like asking for 15 minutes on a phone call versus a face-to-face or a coffee right out of the gate, to sort of add on to what you said,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a reasonable request given the amount of relationship you have built over time. I don't think you jump right into the lunch ask or to the coffee ask, especially we consultants, I know you're one too. I get a little testy when it's like, can I buy you some coffee to pick your brain for an hour? I'm like, that's $300. No, no, you can't.
Well, and you bring up a really good point. I think it is all about the context of the relationship and what you're hoping to achieve through that conversation. So if I meet somebody, let's say at an event, so you and I go to a monthly event, or we've shared time at one quite a bit. I'll meet people there. If they're interesting, if there's something that I think I can help them with, or that I'd like to ask them, tell me. I have no problem giving that person a call, shooting an email afterwards, saying, "Hey, can we grab coffee?" Because it's we've already established that context of the relationship.
Right.
If it's somebody that I don't know, like it's just a LinkedIn person, for example, that I'm reaching out to, yeah, I don't ever ask for, in fact, their time the first time I reach out. In fact, that's why I love digital communication like LinkedIn, is because the first ask is, can I be in your sphere of influence, right? Can we just be connected? And then if there is something that I would eventually like to have them help me with, I will often go out and try to find a way to help them first.
Yep.
Again, I think this is long term. I actually think networking done right is always about investing in the future. There are relationships that I'm working on right now that I don't know what's going to come up from them.
Okay, that's a tweetable, man. That is a tweetable.
That's great. I don't even know I'm doing it. I'll use our shared friend Andy Crestodina as an example. Andy's a great guy, and I actually was introduced to him a couple of years ago because I do a lot of networking. I know a lot of people. So does Andy, and they're like, "How do you not know Andy?" So we got together once, and we were like, "How do we not know each other?"
Seriously, how did you guys not know each other?
We did. We had like 60 shared LinkedIn connections at a time when that was actually pretty impressive.
Right.
But here's what was interesting. There was also not an obvious way for us to work together, to help each other out. We were just like, oh, you're a cool guy. You're a cool guy. We're enjoying each other's company. And I was like, well, let's have another conversation. And then we ended up working together on the networking events that we run, right, which are very casual. But I ended up emceeing his company's conference this year. I've gotten a chance to get to know him really well. I'd call us friends. Me and him and our wives, we play board games together.
For sure.
But that came from me not going, oh, wow, I'm going to get business from this person, or I'm going to get a job from this person, or they're going to introduce me to X, Y. I was like, there's something good here. And so I want to invest. And it's an easy investment because you find good people and you're like, well, this is fun. This is enjoyable. This is engaging in probably one of the most human of activities, which is social interaction. And then.
Yeah. And
I'll shut. Yeah.
Wait. I want to jump in here.
Go.
Because there's the case for the right networking event for you and different networking events for different reasons. Like the event that you're talking about is one that I look forward to. Like, this is not a hard one to get me out of the house. I'm usually one of the first people there and one of the last people to leave, which is so unusual for me. But it's a bunch of really interesting people. We covered a range of topics. We were channel surfing topics at that. It was so funny. We talked everything from SEO to content to, like, we were all over music. We were all over the map on this, and it was just so fun. So there's that. All professionals, any of us could be giving work to any of the other of us, but there are other types of networking events. Let's talk about different events that business owners might go to for different reasons.
So one of the things that I often talk about is that there's done right, networking is like a pyramid. And you got to have the foundation and you got to build up for it. I think I wrote an article about it somewhere once, but where you start is just numbers. Like, people ask me, what's the ideal size for a network? Well, it's one more than you have right now. And so even when you first start out, you are going to go to some of the larger events. It might be a chamber event. It depends on what, your industry. It might be a conference, because you actually are trying to get numbers. Not everybody you meet with, you're going to click with. Not everybody you meet with is like, yeah, I want to keep following up, or there's, it just might not work out. So in the beginning, you have to build that foundation.
Okay.
Then you start getting a little more specific, and you continue to add people. That's when I think you go to more targeted events. So maybe it is just potential clients, or more like, let's say, an industry event. Like when I first started my company, I didn't know anybody. I had done no professional networking. I went to like chamber events and just random networking groups. Like whether or not you were a good client, I went there. Then I started getting a little more specific. And then you get to the point where if you do those two things correctly, I mean, I rarely go to networking events these days, not because I don't like them, but because I have, hold on a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 coffees or lunches this week, or happy hours, one-on-one with people that are either in my network or have been recommended. Because then what I'll do is I'll say, hey, is there somebody else I should know? And my friends go, yeah, you should meet this person or that person. Right. So all of that's networking. But if you try to skip, it doesn't work. You have the foundation and continue to build from there. Does that make sense?
It does. Do you really think, here in Chicago, there's that network after work group where, a gazillion people meet in a noisy space? That just seems like a giant waste of time when you get cornered by the network marketer. Sell me on why I should possibly go to that.
I wouldn't tell anybody I'm going to any event. It depends on if it fits your goals. Meaning, if you're like, gosh, I just need to meet some more people, and there's value in that, then it's worthwhile. I was never a big fan of those. I just moved to
the city. I don't know a soul. I got to go meet some humans.
And guess what? A lot of times people that go to those actually tend to be more the gregarious people, and they know people, and they can be a great gateway into their networks. I actually went to one. I don't go to as many these days, but I went to one maybe, 6-8 months ago. And you know what? I walked out with a bunch of business cards. I had some good conversations. A couple of people joined my email list. And actually, I made a really good connection. A guy who lives in my neighborhood, and we get coffee like once a month. He's a consultant as well. Again, nothing has necessarily come from it, but I think something will. And he's a smart guy. He's a cool guy. So yeah, just because it's a big, crazy party and not everybody's the person you want to talk to, mm-hmm. I don't think you want to say no just off the bat.
Okay, fantastic. That's actually super helpful. What do you think about an elevator pitch? Do you come in with a canned statement about what you do, or where do you fall on that?
I do. I think that most professionals don't have a good way of talking about what they do.
For sure.
At all. So, and I have, of course, come up with like the structure. This is how you should do it. It can be helpful, but most importantly, it's just have a way that you can confidently talk about what you do and how you help people in a couple sentences. I don't agree with you have to be clever and, insightful and an elevator pitch. I hate calling them elevator pitches because we don't do them in elevators. It really is. Do you have a way of introducing what you do to somebody else in a way that is somewhat engaging
and that understandable?
Understandable, and you're not stumbling around. And, I tell those people all the time, you might be struggling to just explain what you do, but I just see you struggling and then go, oh, you're not confident. And especially in the beginning of a relationship, I mean, that's what I'm really looking for from somebody is like, do you have confidence in what you do and how you serve people? So I think you have to have that. And so if that's just a couple sentences, that, I tell people, hey, I help people become rock stars in their professional lives. I'm a speaker, coach, and author. Sometimes that's it. And then we have a conversation because really there's so much more to unpack from that.
Right.
So you got to have something. And it's got to be short and to the point. You also want to ramble. And it does depend if you're going to an event where you're just kind of shaking hands, or if you're going to one of those kind of more formal events where you have the 30 seconds to stand up.
Oh,
And yeah, at that point, you're definitely going to, I think, structure, like I always say, tell people your name, company, and position, tell them what you do, tell them one usable reason to engage with you, tell them a reason to engage, repeat your name, company, and title. So that's my
good.
standing up thing. But usually it's just have that 2 sentences if you meet somebody, again, buy the appetizers.
Fantastic. All right. Well, that was super helpful. Any other little nudge for why, another reason that we don't really talk about is solopreneur loneliness. A lot of us work alone in our home office, and deliberately making a plan to go out and interact with other humans is a good idea. Like it staves off a bunch of icky things, negative self-talk, depression, and otherwise. So, interacting, you should do that. And you might get some good ideas for your business. You might make a friend. Those of us who are single might get a date. Who knows? Like you might get a vendor. I got a great client at sort of a random social media networking event because she had the coolest glasses. And I told her so, and when we struck up a conversation, turned out we knew a lot of the same people, and I was actually a really big fan of her work. She was on the radio, so I'd never seen her live.
Nice.
She ended up being, a long-term client. You just never know where this is going to go.
That's I always tell people, be open to the possibilities. One thing that I want to make sure is very clear as well, though, is this networking, right? This is professional. At the same time, I never feel bad as long as I've given first asking for help. And that's something that I think a lot of people, they forget the ask. Being specific, being clear, being like, this is exactly what I need. Can you help me with that? It's okay if you can't. Can you introduce me to this company? Do you know this person? And if they say no, that's totally okay. Always leave the out. But yeah, just going in with kind of this open attitude can be really empowering, because then you don't need to put pressure, as you said at the top of the conversation, this pressure to make something happen. You just kind of see there's a lot of possibilities, and that's when the cool stuff does happen.
I think that's right. I think that's exactly right. Going into these with sort of an open mind, having an interesting conversation, being helpful if you can, having a clear ask. Like if we were going somewhere, I might say, hey, you know what? I'm looking for, somebody to do some SEO on my website. Do you know anybody?
Yeah.
Pretty clear ask.
Mm-hmm.
And given the people we hang out with, you probably do know somebody.
Right. And again, it takes the pressure off. And it really is just about engaging in our humanness, right? These are all skills that we all have already. You don't have to add on special skills. It's just really being intentional about that relationship building. And then, once you have that, I said, I use the word foundation a lot, but if you have that, you have a context to ask for help. And here's what I'll tell you, people want to help, because do you want to help people?
Always. Yeah,
well, guess so does everybody else. So often you just have to give them the opportunity to help. People all the time ask me for stuff, and I'm like, thanks for asking. And if I can do it, more than happy to.
More than happy to. There's such a thing as giver's glow, folks. Helping people is how we're wired, and we get a chemical hit to reward us for doing it. It's a real thing. But you got to make it easy for people, because everybody's busy and everybody's distracted, squirrel. So, right?
Yep.
David, thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom today. If people want to learn more and connect with you and read some of Dave puts out some great content.
Oh, thank you.
You seriously want to follow him. So where do they find you?
Yeah, easiest place right online, davidjpfisher.com. That's got my blog. It's got my website. It's got links to my YouTube channel. I actually have something called DTV, where I put short little videos with networking advice, sales advice, all that kind of good stuff. And LinkedIn. I talked about it a lot. LinkedIn.com/IamDfish, IAMDFISH.
Nice. David, thank you so much.
Sounds great. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.